Hey guys, it's Jonathan here. So we're going to be answering one of the questions that have come through to us, and we get this question all the time, and it's how can I get my chord changes, especially the C chord, changing nice and smoothly, and a couple of tips for that. So here we go, we're going to dive into how to get that C chord changing quicker, and we'll go from there. So I've got 3 tips for you. So tip number 1 is we're going to be doing a little exercise. We've got that C chord, we've got it sounding nice and clean, and we're going to practice getting that movement to that chord. So you're going to put a metronome on, strum the chord on one beat, tap the guitar on the other, and tap. So you need to make sure when you tap you have an open hand. Tap that body of the guitar on the side. So it might be a bit more rounded on your guitar than what mine is. I've just got a cutaway here to help me get up higher, but tap that bottom part of the guitar there. And then on the next beat, go back to your C chord, tap, C chord, tap, and get that with the metronome. So start really slow, like 40 beats a minute, or even slower if you need to, and do that for about a minute, 2 minutes, just doing that. And making sure that when you put that fingers on the C chord, all 3 fingers of that C chord go down nice and smoothly to each other. Alrighty, I'll come in a little bit closer to that camera. And strum, tap, strum, tap, strum, tap, strum, tap, strum, tap, strum, tap. Alright, so that's tip number 1. Tip number 2, to build the fingers the opposite way. So majority of people, when they're playing the C chord, or any chord for that matter, they start with the highest strings first and build their way down. So normally it's going 1, 2, 3 with the fingers. 1, 2, 3. That's the majority of people when they're first starting out. Going from one chord and then building up that chord to the C. What I want you to do is go backwards. So start going 3, 2, 1 with the fingers. Alrighty, so I'll come in a little bit closer. So going 3, 2, 1, not 1, 2, 3. So 3, 2, 1, and give that a strum. So take those fingers off, 3, 2, 1, strum. Fingers off, 3, 2, 1. And what that's going to do is it's going to help you to get all 3 fingers down at the same time. We're using a little bit of a brain power for that one, alright, brain magic. Alright, so we're so used to going that way, our brain's memorised that movement, so we want it to go the other way, get that movement down. And then eventually, all 3 fingers at the same time will happen. Alright, so that's tip number 2. Tip number 3 is use a chord progression really slowly and practice changing between your chords. So for example, if I'm going to be doing a chord progression, I'm just going to do a basic pop progression. So I'm going to go G, and I'm going to go D, and I'm going to go E minor, and then I'm going to go C. So that's G, D, E minor, C. And I'm just going to keep that 1, 2, 3, 4, just keep that going nice and steady, and just focus on getting those chords changing nice and smoothly. Alrighty? And that could be, any song, this little progression. If you've seen the comedians who do the 4 chord song, Axis of Awesome, these are the chords. Alrighty. So just practice a chord pattern or a chord progression around and around and around, and make sure those chords are nice and clean and smooth every single time. Doesn't matter what your right hand's doing to start with. What I'd recommend though is to strum on just beat 1, let those notes ring out for 4 beats as whole notes. Alright, and really focus on that change, making sure all the fingers are coming down at the same time, you get that clarity. Okay, so they're my 3 tips in getting better chord changes. You just need to sit down and move through it and practice through it a lot more. It does take time. don't rush yourself, be patient with yourself. Learning guitar is a really tricky skill. It's harder than riding a bike, okay? But once you got it, it'll be just like riding a bike. So I hope the 3 tips have helped. So tip number 1 is just strumming your chord with the metronome, tap the guitar, strum and tap. Keep it in beat, making sure those fingers are all going down at the same time on that chord. All 3 fingers at the same time, or however many fingers it is for that particular chord. Tip number 2, again, was building the chord the opposite way that your fingers are doing. If you're building your chord 1, 2, 3, I want you to build it 3, 2, 1, okay? And that will eventually get those fingers down right at the same time. Tip number 3 was use those chords in a little bit of a chord progression and really slow it down, taking your time with it. I hope all these skills have helped you and these tips. Comment in the comments box below if it has, and we'll see you on the next video.